How does a man paralyzed by one punch,
Send your prayers to Charles, you know. This is how we make a living.
who goes on to lose again and again,
And it is all over.
become one of the UFC's greatest ever warriors? A legendary career forged by grave hardship and struggle. This is how the Oliveira came to be.
O campeão tem nome, se chama Charles do Bronx.
As the crime-ridden streets of Brooklyn did Mike Tyson, Philly for the underground king, the streets of Sao Paulo, Brazil created the harsh conditions that planted championship seeds for Charles Oliveira. The sprawling favelas a maze, it was there that the Bronx was dubbed that very name and made his first steps.
Morava no fundo da casa da minha avó, apertadinho, 6 pessoas. Não tinha dinheiro pra nada. Quarto, um quarto, a sala, cozinha e banheiro, era isso, tudo junto, bem pequenininho.
Onde que minha mãe prepara a comida da gente, a cozinha, junto com o banheiro um pouco pequenininho, mas dá pra gente. Agora aqui.
And as Jiu-jitsu boomed within Brazil, spearheaded by the Gracie clan, it's little surprise that someone with the ambition of Charles would quickly partake. Under the guidance of his parents, who saw a positive avenue that would lead their son away from a life of drink and drugs, for their son, the mats became his crutch. The gym, a haven for those who trained, an escape of sorts, offering a chance for glory and wealth. A small one, no doubt, but Charles would seize it with little hesitation.
A preocupação da minha mãe, né? Perdi amigos pro crime, infelizmente alguns morreram, outros estão presos. Minha mãe tinha muito medo disso. Minha mãe colocou nós em vários bagulhos de esporte. Mas graças à minha mãe, eu escolhi o lado certo, né? A gente escolheu o lado certo da minha família, meus irmãos. E quando eu comecei no mundo do jiu-jitsu, cara, eu falei, eu sou bom nisso, sabe? Falei, cara, eu posso, sabe, dar algo pra minha mãe.
But with what would become a familiar tale throughout his career, the Bronx would face a grave setback, and one that would fell lesser men. Not an injury sustained from hard rounds and a bruised body, instead something far more serious. Diagnosed with rheumatic fever and a heart murmur, the prospect of debilitating health conditions would nearly end his journey just as it had begun.
Eu não consegui nem andar, sabe?
Tinha medo de se machucar e tudo isso por causa do quê? Da gravidade da doença dele. Ai, mãe, tá doendo. Deu uma dor tão forte. O pai dele teve que pegar ele no colo porque ele não conseguia ficar de pé. A gente tava ele pé, ele caía. Tava ele pé, ele caía.
Como que foi no postinho médico pra tomar injeção. Eu tava esperando assim o momento, pra poder ser chamado pra tomar injeção. E aí eu falei pro meu pai, eu não vou tomar mais isso aí não. Tomei nada de remédio, não tomei mais injeção. Foi a última.
He would reject the advice and warnings of those voicing disapproval and find a way to prove them wrong. He was doing as champions do, staring down adversity and facing it head on. But the success stories of Brazil were few and far between for a very good reason. For every famed sportsman, there are millions that seek the same dream, instead who are doomed to the sprawling favelas forevermore. Charles's outright refusal to be another statistic, a number on a page, was the difference maker.
Não tinha dinheiro pra comer, não tinha nada. Eu fui sem R$1 no bolso. Eu só fui pra lutar, não tinha grana pra nada. Fui em busca de um sonho. Fui lutar contra o cara que nocauteava todo mundo, batia em todo mundo lá, chamado Don Stanko.
Você lembra da idade dele na época?
Não lembro, mas era, devia ter, 5, 6 anos mais velho do que eu.
If your leg gets caught and you go to the ground. Nice right hand by Stanko.
É muito mais experiente. O cara tava anos invicto lá no evento.
Back to their feet. He's got double underhooks.
E aí eu cheguei lá e finalizei o cara no segundo round, com o mata-leão nas costas, ganhei um cinturão.
Got that choke sunk in. Wow.
Charles from the Bronx, Oliveira the Silver.
Defying those odds stacked against him, Charles's early foray into mixed martial arts at just 18 years of age proved that despite his medical setbacks and smaller stature, he had the skills and innate talent to go far. Outsized, outmatched, and yet the Bronx would find a way to win, time after time. Culminating in 12 victories, 11 via finish with a blemishless record across Brazil's regional scene, eventually the UFC would finally come knocking.
Essa aqui, ia lutar UFC. Aí esperei 6 meses e nada. E aí lutei e ganhei, eu tô voltando. O telefone começou a tocar. Falei, fala logo, meu, pô, pelo amor de Deus, aconteceu alguma coisa e tal. E aí cheguei em casa e falou, abre o e-mail aí e tal. Abri o e-mail, tava lá o papelzão gigantesco, contrato do UFC. Chorei pra caramba, né? Família inteira chorou. Pô, muita dedicação, muito sangue, muito suor, muito, sabe?
It was not a guarantee. Countless gladiators before him had been granted the very same chance, only to see them squandered and their tenures over before they had even begun. But it was an opportunity, and entering the big stage at just 20 years of age meant the Bronx had a chip on his shoulder. to best those with more fights, more experience, and make a name for himself.
He's got it locked up, Mike. Oliveira turning it into an armbar. Oh, he's done. Wow.
With that initial hunger came blissful ignorance, an aura of immortality that in truth could never be realistically maintained. It's a canon event for almost every UFC fighter. It is not the manner of a loss that defines a great, rather their ability to learn from it.
E aí, tipo, porra, imagina, você nunca perdeu na vida, você é novo, tá ligado? Família, mano, calma. Tem alguma coisa que tá errando, tal. Vamos devagar, tal.
O que você acha que você tava errando?
Cara, na realidade, eu acho que tudo é tudo fase, irmão. Ninguém vai ser invicto pro resto da vida. Ninguém vai ser o melhor pro resto da vida, tá ligado? Era os momentos de perder, foi os momentos certos, tá ligado?
Where the boxing realm emphasizes the concept of an undefeated record to the utmost degree, Oliveira and most of the UFC alumni placed little value upon it. Losing was not just a part of MMA, but a part of life, and accepting that fact was the first step towards achieving greatness. With his youth came inexperience, and over time, Charles would hone his craft in the featherweight rankings, going from a hungry kid to a budding contender. But just as he had faced medical setbacks in his youth, so too would they arise as the Bronx charted his UFC course. Not debilitating by any means, but effective enough that at the highest level where the margins for error are oh so thin, he could pay the price.
Mas falando sério, tu é cegão sem os óculos?
Irmão, se eu tirar o óculos, eu enxergo, tipo, meio no mais ou menos ali normal, tal. Nunca me atrapalhou na luta, irmão. Não, eu vi o 3, né? Eu tô batendo no do meio, tá tudo certo. Tá ligado? Falei, continua nessa mesma técnica. 3 cara, pra mim tá perfeito. Tô batendo no do meio, tô acertando. Entendeu? Então, por enquanto, tá bom.
With every obstacle he had faced before, it was nothing more than a speed bump. But as Charles entered his 5th year in the company, an admirable accolade no doubt, any momentum gained from a 4-5 winning streak would be shattered instantaneously. Paired against the Blessed Express, Max Holloway, Charles would be felled, but not from a flurry of punches like so many before him.
Oh, looks like an injury to the shoulder of Charles Oliveira.
Cara, na hora que eu entrei nas pernas dele, que eu bati a cabeça na grade, só deu tempo de levantar, eu levantei o braço esquerdo e já era. Perdi o movimento do lado esquerdo inteiro.
He's down. He's definitely in pain.
Yeah, stunned silence here in Saskatoon.
Quando chegou no hospital, a moça, fiquei pelado e a moça veio tocando, né, no meu corpo e tal, e perguntando, que noite eu tô mexendo, tá? Eu falei, você tá mexendo no dedão direito. Eu falei, não. Ah, irmão, aí, filho, só chorei, mano. A coisa que eu mais lembro foi quando eu entrei pra fazer a ressonância do corpo inteiro, só que eu tava amarrada e veio tipo um espasmo. Eu comecei, mexeu.
Justified or not, the bout's cruel outcome had cemented the unfortunate reputation of Charles being a quitter. A man looking for the easy way out when the chips were down, instead of pushing forth to greatness. Accepting loss was the first stage towards success, but using it as fuel for the fire was the second. Such a devastating injury that would end the career of most was the reality check needed for Charles to shed his old skin and embrace the new. To reach the summit would require more than just a change in mindset, a physical overhaul, a change in camps.
Cara, eu lembro que quando eu lutei contra o Paul Felder, que foi minha última derrota, ele era muito mais forte do que eu e eu, mano, eu tomei muita cotovelada. E você sabe, o cotovelo ele te deixa zoado. Que, tipo, eu poderia ser melhor do que aquilo que eu tinha feito, sabe? Sabia que, tipo, eu tinha perdido porque ele era muito mais forte do que eu, que ele tinha sido melhor do que eu naquele momento. Falei, mano, então eu tenho que ser forte igual esses caras, sabe? Aí eu comecei a blindar minha mente.
Shooter Box's renowned aggressive Muay Thai style was the key, molding Charles not just into a larger lightweight frame, but a gladiator now willing to bite down on his gum shield and take the front foot. With his jiu-jitsu base now an auxiliary tool used solely to finish the fight as opposed to a defensive front, Oliveira would wipe clean the slate and be reborn as a new killer in the lightweight rankings.
People think of Oliveira as not being a monster because there's times that people have beaten him. Like Paul Felder smashed him, Cub Swanson KO'd him. Guys have beaten him, but he got better.
Oliveira hasn't been going up and down like a stock market. He's only been going up.
Six straight had proven to most that this new version of the Bronx wasn't going to go away quietly. To him, the only option now was visceral, unadulterated victory. And his next challenger mirrored that mindset to a T. Though not clearly at the same grand heights he had once reached, former title challenger Kevin Lee was the ranked opponent Charles craved, boasting the ability and fighting stock worth seizing. A win here would not only increase his notoriety, but leave the Bronx on the cusp of a title shot.
Handle your business. Charles Oliveira is ready to do that.
Every time. Oh, gonna watch that neck.
Kevin Lee caught down.
This is bad.
Oliveira forces the tap. Charles Charles Oliveira, another submission.
Questions answered, but not all of them. And the caliber of Oliveira's next opponent reflected it. When the tenacious El Cucuy is in your path, the boogeyman of the lightweight rankings, to surpass him would mean a clear shot at the throne. And though just like Kevin before him, Ferguson lay at the beginning of a long and unforgiving fighting decline, his unorthodox skill set and widely known name still remained. Two men who didn't just enjoy the art of war, the knockouts and bloodshed, but relished it. And it was there, in front of an empty Apex arena as COVID had set in, that Charles would announce himself to the millions watching at home.
Charles "Do Bronx" Oliveira making the walk for his 27th UFC appearance. He has taken on the former interim champ Tony Ferguson. El Cucuy Tony Ferguson back on the proving ground tonight.
I'll grab it. Look at that.
Literally just picked him up.
Slammed him. Oh my goodness. How good is this guy? How good is this guy?
But Charles "Do Bronx" Oliveira proving to be too much tonight. Will 8 be enough to earn him his first crack at the elusive UFC lightweight title? We shall see.
Today, I want to say it was my last fight. And no way I'm gonna come here without my father. I talked with my mother. She don't want I go fight without father, but I promise her it's gonna be my last fight. And if I give my word, it was my last fight here, I have to follow this.
A long and arduous trek to the sports summit, but atop it lay no champion to challenge, no custodian of the throne. In the wake of Khabib Nurmagomedov's vacation and subsequent retirement was a vacuum of power and a vacant title to be claimed. Charles rightfully granted the chance, but he needed a dance partner. One man was there to fill that void.
Oh! Big knockdown for Michael Chandler! Maximizing the debut and sticks the landing! There's a new king in the lightweight division!
Michael Chandler's tenure in Bellator as a king had his reputation established, but any questions doubters may have had were vindicated come his UFC debut. In many ways, it was that unknown that made him so terrifying. Largely unproven on the elite stage, his explosive entry and equally fitting mic moment had Dana seeing the dollar signs. A title shot thus granted in his second octagon outing. Chandler had nothing to lose, no expectations upon him, which of course made him the most dangerous man of them all.
With a tip of the cap to the outgoing champion Khabib Nurmagomedov, a new era in the UFC's lightweight division begins tonight one way or another. By night's end, a capacity crowd will have witnessed the crowning of a new, undisputed UFC lightweight champion.
In many ways, this is savagery versus finesse. The way he approaches fights is just a seek and destroy mentality.
Interesting juxtaposition as Charles Oliveira makes the walk for his 28th UFC appearance. And now it has all come together for Charles Oliveira.
The question is, will all that precision and technique be enough?
There's that left hand.
Oliveira's in trouble. He's in real trouble.
Oliveira in a world of trouble.
Nunca tinha que ser dessa forma que foi. Porque eu tinha que passar pela prova.
Knockdown for Oliveira now. Now a knee to the body for Charles and a right hand. Now Chandler is still. He's out. Charles Oliveira is the undisputed UFC lightweight champion.
Depois de muito tempo, 11 anos, irmão. Demorou 11 anos lá dentro. E eu batalhei pra caraca, tipo, aconteceu, tá ligado?
New undisputed champion of the world, Charles Oliveira!
11 years on from those first brave steps into a new realm, Charles Oliveira had grown from a frail and outsized boy into a fighting man, a machine, and claimed the lightweight throne in the process. A warrior who had seen one side of the coin in his youth, now the other. In winning the title came new riches, new glories, and for his family, a path out of poverty. Victory wasn't just for himself, but the entire Oliveira clan. Treading the path of a champion, however, is a treacherous game. With it comes the distractions of the high life. Many fighters of combat sports legend follow that familiar tale. A shift in priorities, as for the first time, fighting plays second fiddle. The cost tends to be the highest, and Charles was determined not to follow that fate. With all the financial rewards, new opportunities, a fighting legacy was always at the forefront. And in the Brazilian's way, for a first title defense, was the man they called the Diamond.
He's taken out like champions. Took out Eddie, champion.
The pressure from Poirier continues.
Gaethje was a champion.
Poirier continues to land.
Max, champion. It's like all these guys he's beaten. Anthony Pettis, champion.
He also rises to the occasion. He fought better against Max than any other fight he ever fought in his career.
One of the UFC's greatest gladiators to never claim undisputed, Louisiana's Dustin Poirier looked to eradicate that namesake with his second chance at lightweight gold. Once an interim king, before losing it to the Eagle himself, the Diamond looked to mount another challenge following 2 victories over the Notorious. It was a title shot he could have had sooner, but perhaps in chasing the money fight over legacy, he was doomed from the very start.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for coming out today. We appreciate it.
Esse é um legado. Eu nasci pra isso, eu nasci pra estar aqui. Vocês sabem da minha história. Os médicos falaram que eu não podia jogar uma bola. E hoje eu sou campeão mundial do peso leves.
The guy hit so hard.
Doing it.
Oh my goodness, he's got.
Whoa, look at that.
Look at the transition.
It's under the neck. It's under the neck.
He's down! Charles Oliveira down and now, folks! Down and now! Charles Oliveira!
And staring down defeat and coming out on top again, Charles may not have had the esteemed legacy of previous lightweight greats just yet, but the manner of his victories had him remembered far more than those before him. Exciting, without a shadow of a doubt. Sustainable, hardly. But as the Oliveira was in full swing, few could look away every time he entered the cage. And with his next challenge, a new contender, fresh blood, came perhaps the most exciting bout of them all.
Justin Gaethje is a monster.
Oh, he got him with a shoulder! That is it!
He hit like truck, you know, like nobody hit harder than Justin Gaethje.
Big right from Gaethje, and down goes Vic!
Everything he throws is designed to put you out.
Justin Gaethje head kicks Dustin Poirier into the stratosphere!
The human highlight was granted his namesake for very good reason. A wrestler turned striker in chase of money and fame, his knockout power had taken him, just like Poirier, to an interim throne. He would suffer the same fate too. Now once more he looked to summit the lightweight mountain. UFC 274, the stage set, but Gaethje would make a bold claim in the build that may well have sealed his fate forevermore.
The same Charles is still there. Same Charles that fought Cub Swanson, same Charles that fought Donald Cerrone, same Charles that fought Hardier, Pettis. Choices were made in that by him, and the choice to quit was made. And I'm going to give him that choice on Saturday night. I guarantee that.
A statement that may have held weight in the past, but this the Bronx was a new evolution, one willing to go out on his shield or until the final bell had rung, and to doubt him now was the gravest mistake one could ever make.
Any fight at this level is going to be mentally taxing. You have to be perfect. You know, first one to make a mistake will end up in a bad position, and that's why I love this sport. It takes one shot. I wish we didn't have to talk about it because, you know, war doesn't involve talking. Here we are.
Work done, hours on the mat and the tedious run of media. The only thing left was that excruciating part every warrior must suffer through, making the scales.
Ladies and gentlemen, back to the scale, the UFC lightweight champion Charles Oliveira.
$55.5.
155.5.
We're hearing rumblings on the ground that there were some scale recalibrations and some discrepancies, but it is what it is.
The first time ever a UFC champion has lost their belt on the scale, at least in the modern era. We do not have a UFC lightweight champion. Charles Oliveira has been stripped officially.
He's not going to be the champion the moment the fight starts. He is stripped of his championship. He is now regretting not getting on the scale, but the reality is at a point, the body just says enough.
The murky circumstances of the Bronx's weight miss leave us with no real answer nor any clarity. A safe assumption, perhaps in the years gone by, was a lack of discipline or innate struggle when taking into account Charles's numerous weight issues down a weight class. But rumors of a faulty scale, however prominent, would be left as exactly that. And come fight night, the lightweight division lay without its ruler. A tragic chapter in the tale of the Bronx, the one that would ignite a fire within. A new hunger greater than any before.
Mano, meu pai ligou desesperado, chorando, parecia uma criança. E eu, calma, mano, fica tranquilo, a gente vai resolver, tal. Só que meu pai só chorava. Aí meu pai, pô, é um legado. Tipo, eles não podem tirar isso, tá ligado? Falei, mano, liga o som dessa porra aí, mano, tá ligado? Eu vou matar esse cara amanhã.
Justin Gaethje
trying to produce an undisputed UFC world title here in Arizona against the soon-to-be former champion, Charles Oliveira.
When Charles Oliveira fights, even though he's the champion, he fights like a berserker.
Charles landed a big right early.
Oh my goodness, just landed some big leg kicks to start.
Casey knocks Oliveira down.
He gets hit, he just lays on his back.
Yeah.
He's like, come get some of this.
Gaethje knows where he wants to fight.
Kick landing a right hand. Big knockdown with a right for Oliveira. Now trying to transition to the back. Oliveira's under the chin.
Oh my goodness.
That is going to do it. Who can stop Charles Oliveira? 11 in a row and still the best lightweight on planet Earth.
O campeão tem nome, se chama Charles do Bronx. Pode bater, bate, filha. Homem aqui aguenta, rapaz. Nós é iluminado, rapaz. Tá faltando alguma coisa aqui. Cadê meu cinturão?
Charles had said it best. When all was said and done, the record books meant little. Though he may not lay claim to the throne on a technicality, that legendary victory in front of the masses would be remembered far more than any meager defense on an irrelevant pay-per-view. It's a simple reality. In mixed martial arts, the art of war transcends any linguistic barriers or hurdles. And waging it at the top level saw Charles turn from a prospect to a contender, and finally a king. And though his time at the top would eventually see its end, as it does for every warrior, Oliveira came, saw, and conquered from nothing to everything and more.
Moleque que veio do nada, de baixo, de dentro da comunidade, desacreditado. Se hoje Deus me levasse hoje, eu morreria muito feliz. Tudo que eu tenho, tudo que eu proporcionei para meus pais, no Bronx significa isso para mim. Um moleque que veio da favela para vencer.